At noon, the disciples gather again in the ashram, if not physically, then at least in spirit. This column in the middle of the day is important to support the spiritual building within which you wish to securely dwell. If you are in the midst of the world, you do not have to take a long time out. A few basic thoughts of connection, affirmation, and elevation, of joy at the imminent return home, are sufficient. Even during the worst strain of earthly business, a short withdrawal is always possible. Take advantage of this short break to remember your true nature and mission, to recite one or the other mantra, and to draw from the reservoir of good thoughts which you have stockpiled in quieter times for this opportunity. One should stockpile good thoughts. Only they will make possible an easy ascent to the heights. This short meditation will be primarily a purification from worldly radiations, bad thoughts, moods, and desires. You will learn how helpful it is to throw off the burden of material oppression and to rise, even for a brief moment, to a better world, to your true home. In the evening, teachers and disciples meet again for 2 hours of temple work. Now is the time to detach yourself from the world, to mend the battered spiritual armor, to meditate, and to heal your wounded soul. You take in again the spirit of the ashram, which threatened to be suffocated during the day in the world. Prayer is good at any time, yet there are 2 periods of change of currents when turning to the higher world is especially desirable, at sunrise and after sunset. Besides, upon going to sleep, it is befitting to invoke the higher world. It is necessary to purify one's consciousness before the entrance into the sacred gates. Whatever happens to you during the day, it must carry you the certainty that you will return in the evening to the world of the soul, that you will be able to clean yourself in meditation and to find back to the divine peace. Just like in the morning, so in the evening as well, you will have to raise and consolidate your ideal, the guiding principle of your life. Otherwise, your spiritual ego will not be able to survive in a material world. Like at death, you appear before your master. Like at death, you will have to account for every thought, every word, and every deed of the day, for everything you undertook or failed to carry out in the name of hierarchy. If people were able to give themselves an account of the quality of a day, they could avoid many difficulties.
Did you comply with the rule of the disciple? Did you take advantage of the opportunities for ascent that were offered to you? Did you contribute another stone for the building of the new world? Did you come nearer by one step to the higher spheres? Did you execute their orders? Did you implement the plan that you yourself formed in the morning? What can you do better tomorrow?
When we meet our highest guides, we must find the strength to ask whether we have fulfilled our tasks. They will tell us where we have succeeded and where we have failed.
The idea that this day might be the last, and that you might stand before your eternal judge tomorrow, will show you how much there is left to do, and how you can better use the little time remaining for you, and how shameful it is to miss the opportunities for advancement provided by each new day. The decisive test is, after the earthly day, not to indulge in distraction, but to return to contemplation and collection within the higher self. The spirit needs some time to purify itself from the hostile radiations to which it was subjected in the world. But then he can, after the toils and troubles of the day, enjoy the pleasures of meditation.
Hours of happiness. Thus we call that step in the development of consciousness when, without turning away from life, our co-workers are given the opportunity to join us in our abode.
The concept of the inner monastery allows you to return in the evening, as at death, to the home of your soul. You can actually die for the world. You can leave all your burdens and worries behind and live in a higher sphere in which there are no material oppressions or restrictions. You can reflect on each earthly day the salutary rhythm, the eternal alternation of life and death, of rebirth on the material plane and rest in the supermundane world. As an example, we cite the order of the day of the Tabinisi ashram in Hamburg.
"5 o'clock, awakening. 5:15, gymnastics. 5:45, morning toilet. 6 o'clock, communion with the higher world. 7 o'clock, study of Agni Yoga. 8 o'clock, work for livelihood. 10:30, breakfast. 11 o'clock, work for livelihood. 1:45, return to the ashram. 2 o'clock, training and service in the ashram. 3:30, evening meal. 4 o'clock, training and service in the ashram. 6:45, gymnastics. 7 o'clock, evening toilet. 7:15, study. 7:45, communion with the higher world. 8:30, personal time. 10 o'clock, night's rest.
Some topics, for example, only 2 meals per day, only half-day professional work, we shall discuss in detail in later broadcastings. Of course, this is an ideal which might not be possible to be realized by everybody in every life situation. What is important is not necessarily that you exactly imitate this practice. However, it is crucial that you set up and maintain your own rhythm in accordance with your own life situation. Of course, you might grant yourselves easements or times out, for example, on the weekend or on vacation. The important thing is that your higher self determines your rhythm according to what is necessary and wholesome for you, and that it is not the laziness of the body which rules your life. To give a simple example, you should determine the night before the hour on which you will get up in the morning, and this according to the existing needs, maintenance of the higher connection, training and service. You strengthen your spirit. You establish the rule of this spirit if you carry out this intention. You weaken your spirit if you give in to the body and stay in bed longer than you yourself have determined the night before. As the day, so the spiritual week rests firmly on 3 pillars. The disciple will fix on Sunday, on Wednesday afternoon, and again on Sunday, unalterable times that are dedicated to the realization of a higher life. Between these oases of calm, peace, ascent, and elevation, the roaring life is only a brief interlude that can easily be mastered. Even God has rested on the 7th day, so we too should hold on to this praxis, preserve the Sunday rest, and maintain a wholesome rhythm of active and contemplative life during the course of the week. If you are prevented by the circumstances to find during the course of each day time for the higher communion, training by the teacher, and service to the common good, then you should at least reserve room for these essentials during the course of the week. Regarding the rhythm of the year, we have to rediscover and get used to the fact that everything has its time. Every hour of the day, every day of the week, every month of the year has its specific energy, which can only be used at that particular time. There are whole periods of waiting and grasping the right moment, of planning and execution, of seeking and finding, of destruction and construction, of sowing and harvesting. What success will you have if you begin to sow when it is time to harvest?
To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to break down, and a time to build up. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance.
We need to explore or rediscover the meaning of the seasons. Autumn as the time of harvest. Advent as the time of reflection on the spiritual foundations and of the forging of plans for a new beginning. Spring as the time to proceed with fresh energy to the realization of our projects. St. Michael's Day as the final battle before the harvest, and so forth. You should use your vacation days, at least in part, for contemplation and spiritual progress. You might, for example, participate in a seminar or a retreat in Tbilisi. It is an extremely useful, age-old tradition that those who are cramped in work and family life spend on a regular basis, rhythmically, certain times in a holy place, a monastery or an ashram, in order to lead the ideal life of a spiritual disciple at least 1 or 2 weeks a year. The religious feasts of the annual cycle and the days of the solstice are fixed points that give the course of the year spiritual order and rhythm.
Memorial days establish a useful rhythm.
The remembrance days of the saints and heroes of faith, of all people, all times, and all religions, are like beacons whose brilliance illuminates our everyday life. The community will celebrate them in a dignified way as days of elevation and spirituality.
Solemnity is intensified during days commemorating great heroes. We send forth benevolent thoughts at each of humanity's holy days.
Let us summarize at the end of this broadcasting. Curb the waves of life through a salutary daily, weekly, and annual rhythm. Imitate the great teachers of all times by joining their everyday discipline in each detail. The concept of the inner monastery gives you the unique opportunity and the immense pleasure, really in spirit, to participate in the everyday life of your teacher. Only thus will succession turn from the abstract concept of a Sunday sermon to living reality. Only thus will you strengthen your spirit and move forward on the path.